Nobody walks into self-destruction thinking, this will ruin me. They walk in thinking, this is fine, this is manageable, I can handle this. I'll deal with the consequences later, or maybe there won't be any. Proverbs 6 is a chapter about 5 different ways people do exactly that. 5 scenarios, 5 different kinds of foolishness, and every single one of them looks manageable from the entrance. By the end of this chapter, you'll recognize at least one of them, maybe more. Welcome back to Proverbs for Modern Life. This is episode 6. We're continuing our walk through Proverbs chapter by chapter. Proverbs 5 warned us about the front-loaded pleasure and back-loaded cost of the forbidden. Proverbs 6 picks up that same pattern and applies it to a wider range of life. It's the longest chapter we've covered in this series. It covers 5 different distinct subjects, and at first they seem unrelated. Reckless financial pledges, laziness, the character of a destructive person, a list of things God hates, and the chapter closes back on the same topic Proverbs 5 addressed, sexual immorality, but from a different angle. What ties all 5 together is the same thread. Foolish choices that seem harmless or even sensible in the moment, and the slow motion wreckage they produce over time. Let's go through each one. The chapter opens with a scenario that feels very specific but points to something universal. Verses 1 through 3. My son, if you have become surety for your neighbor, have given a pledge for the stranger, if you have been snared with the words of your mouth, have been caught with the words of your mouth, do this then, my son, and deliver yourself. Since you have come into the hand of your neighbor, go humble yourself and importune your neighbor. Surely this means you have co-signed. You have put your name on someone else's obligation, and Solomon's response is not calm. Verses 4 and 5. Give no sleep to your neighbor, to your eyes, nor slumber to your eyelids. Deliver yourself like a gazelle from the hunter's hands, and like a bird from the hand of the fowler. A gazelle sprinting away from a hunter, a bird running from a fowler. This is urgent language. Get out now. Why does Solomon react this strongly to what seems like a generous act? Because the snare in verse 2 is not the lender. It is your own mouth. You said something. You made a commitment based on confidence in someone else's ability to follow through. And now their problem is your problem. Most people who have co-signed a loan, made a verbal guarantee, or vouched for someone in a high-stakes situation know exactly what that feels like. It seemed like the right thing to do. It seemed like friendship or loyalty or generosity. And then the other person's situation changed and the full weight of that promise landed on you. Solomon's point is not that you should never help people. Instead, it is that words create obligations, and you should be very careful about what your words bind you to before you say them. If you're already in it, the instruction is clear. Do not rest until you're out. Humble yourself. Go directly to the person. Do not let this sit. The longer it sits, the tighter the trap. The second section is the most famous passage in Proverbs, and it's worth reading more carefully than most people do. Verses 6 through 8. Go to the ant, O sluggard, observe her ways and be wise, which having no chief, officer, or ruler, prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provision in the harvest. No chief, no officer, no ruler. The ant does not need to be told. She sees what the season requires and she does it. This detail matters because it identifies what the sluggard is missing. It's not that he cannot work, it's that he needs constant external pressures to move. Left to himself, he defaults to rest. Verses 9 through 11. How long will you lie down, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Your poverty will come in like a vagabond, and your need like an armed man. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands. None of these feel like decisions. They are just a path of least resistance, chosen again and again until the sum of those small deferrals becomes the shape of a life. The vagabond image is important. A vagabond does not announce himself, he arrives. By the time you realize he's there, he's already moved in. Poverty in Proverbs is rarely the result of one catastrophic failure. It's not just making one decision and you become poor overnight. It's a compound interest of small repeated choices to defer, delay, and rest when the work is still sitting there. The ant knows that summer does not last. The sluggard acts as though it always will. The third section introduces a character type that appears throughout Proverbs, verses 12 through 14. A worthless person, a wicked man, is the one who walks with a perverse mouth, who winks with his eyes, who signals with his feet, who points with his fingers, who with perversity in his heart constantly devises evil, who spreads strife. Every detail in this description is about communication. Perverse mouth, winking eyes, signaling feet, pointing fingers. This is a person who has made their whole life like a manipulation tool. Every gesture means something other than what it appears to mean. The word worthless in Hebrew is Belial, and it carries a sense of something without value, something that produces nothing. This person's energy is devoted entirely to strife. He devises it continually. It is not reactive, it is planned. And verse 15 delivers the ending that by now in Proverbs we recognize. Therefore his calamity will come suddenly. Instead, he will be broken and there will be no healing. Suddenly, instantly, no healing. The person who has spent years building a life of manipulation and strife eventually hits the moment where all of it collapses at once. No gradually, suddenly. And the reason there is not healing is that everything was built on perversity. There's no good foundation to rebuild from. Here is a chapter steps back and gives us something different, not a character study or a scenario, a list. This is one of the most memorable passages in the book. Verse 16. There are 6 things in which the Lord hates, yea, 7 which are an abomination to him. In verses 17 through 19. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that run rapidly to evil, a false witness who utters lies, one who spreads strife among brothers. 7 things. Read the list again and notice the progression. It starts with the eyes, pride, then the tongue, lying, then the hands, violence, then the heart, planning evil, then the feet, eagerness towards it, then back to the tongue, false witness, and it ends with a person who tears community apart. The list moves from the inside out. Haughty eyes is an internal orientation. Spreading strife among brothers is a social result. What is in the heart eventually becomes of what the hands and feet do and what the mouth says. And notice what God does not hate in this list. He does not hate failure. He does not hate weakness. He does not hate poverty or struggle or doubt. What he hates is pride, deception, violence, plotting, and the destruction of relationships. Those are things chosen. Those are not things that happen to you. The word abomination is the strongest language of revulsion in the Hebrew vocabulary. This is not mild disapproval. Solomon is saying these things are genuinely repugnant to God, not just inadvisable, abominable. The final section is the longest, and it returns to the theme of Proverbs 5 with a sharper edge. Verses 20 through 23 provide the bridge. My son, observe the commandment of your father, and do not forsake the teaching of your mother. Bind them continually on your heart, tie them around your neck. When you walk about, they will guide you, and when you sleep, they will watch over you, and when you awake, they will talk to you. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching is light. And reproofs for discipline are the way of life. Instruction is a lamp, and teaching is a light. The commandment keeps you on the path that Proverbs 4 described, the one that keeps getting brighter. And then Solomon applies that directly to what is coming, verses 24 and 25. To keep you from the evil woman, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress, do not desire her beauty in your heart, nor let her capture you with her eyelids. Desire in the heart before anything happens outwardly. Solomon does not begin with the act. He begins with the look, with the internal want, because that is where it always begins. And then verses 27 and 28, which are 2 of the bluntest rhetorical questions in the whole book. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Or can a man walk on hot coals and his feet not be scorched? The answer is no, obviously no. Solomon is not asking you to think hard. He is asking you to stop pretending that you are an exception to basic cause and effect. Verse 32 lands the point without decoration. The one who commits adultery with a woman is lacking sense. He who would destroy himself does it, lacking sense, destroying himself, not "this was a mistake" or "this was a moment of weakness." Solomon calls it a fundamental failure of understanding. The person who does this has not weighed the real cost. In verses 34 and 35 make sure the cost is clear. For jealousy enrages a man, and he will not spare in the day of vengeance. He will not accept my ransom, nor will he be satisfied though you give many gifts. This is no way of paying your way out of this. There's no settlement. Some damage cannot be undone with enough apology or enough money. Solomon wants that known before the decision is made, not after. Proverbs 6 covers 5 subjects, and they all point in the same direction. Each section describes a person who did not count the full cost before acting, speaking, or choosing, the co-signer who said yes without thinking through what yes meant, the sluggard who takes a little rest, then a little more until the vagabond arrived, the worthless person who woke up one day and found his whole life had been building toward a sudden collapse, the person who gave in to what verse 25 calls desire in the heart before it becomes anything valuable and ended up in destruction they could not buy their way out of. Here is a common thread. These are all people who saw an easy path in the short term and do not look far enough ahead. The question in this chapter leaves you with, what are you taking a little of? A little sleep, a little compromise, a little entanglement that you have not followed to its logical end. Follow it now. The cost of looking is much smaller than the cost of not looking. This is Proverbs 6, 5 sections, 1 thread. This is part 6 of our Proverbs series. If this chapter surfaced something in your own life, take a few minutes with it today. Pray about it. Do not store it and assume you'll deal with it later. That's the whole chapter's whole warning. Drop a comment with what section hit closest to home, and share this with someone who needs to hear the ant passage or the fire in the bosom question. Both of these land differently depending on what section you're in. Season you're in, sorry. Just subscribe if you want the full series. Proverbs 7 is next. See you then.